So this week's portion is Shoftim, Deuteronomy 16, 18 through 21, 9. And I've called this a murder mystery. I'll let you just think about that for a minute. So Shoftim means judges. And most of us, hopefully, don't have a lot of experience with judges and courts, except maybe David. Where are you at, David? There you are. Were you with the judge today? Or this week? You were? You didn't get put in contempt, I see. So that's good. Well done. Good week. Good week. No jail time. Okay, so I'm hoping we don't have, but maybe you've had jury duty. Maybe you've gone to traffic court a few times. At least that's my experience. Maybe you've been reading about some judges recently who've been in the news. Not going there today. But this Torah portion begins in 16, verse 18. So, man, I was like saying, if you want to turn there, because like something within me still wants to say that, even though there's probably 3 actual Bibles in this place today. Oh, no. 1, 2. Holy cow. I am very, very pleasantly surprised. Mike, you don't use that thing. Don't even hold it up. All I see is this. No, I'm just kidding. Pleasantly surprised. Wow. Well, I need to give you guys time to turn to 16:18. Hopefully you've had enough time while I've been blathering on. You shall appoint judges and officials for you in all your towns that Yahweh your God is giving to you throughout your tribes, and you shall render for the people righteous judgments. You shall not subvert justice. You shall not show partiality. You shall not take a bribe. For the bribe makes blind the eyes of the wise and misrepresents the words of the righteous. Justice, only justice, you shall pursue so that you may live, and you shall take possession of the land that Yahweh your God is giving to you. And I want to take another moment just to let everybody take a deep breath and think longingly of the time when this will be true, because it is not right now. Is that true? Okay, take a minute. Is everybody good? Anybody need a hug? Okay. Clearly our fathers didn't ever have the fullness of this in their day either, because they had their own troubles. But that doesn't mean that the Father didn't set up a robust system of justice for us in his Torah. So it starts here in the guidelines that he lays out. It's all about justice. And did you guys notice that as you were reading this week? How many of you guys actually read through the Torah portion every week? All right. How many listen? All right. Listening, that kind of counts. 2. Okay. The justice system that I hope you noticed as you were reading through it doesn't have anything to do with politics, does it? It's not about race. It's not about gender. It's not about sexual orientation. It's not about any of those things. That's our system. His is very different. And if we make it about justice, it says that we will live long in the land. Sadly, we will have to wait and see for that. Okay, but I did want to take a minute to look at this. Where does justice happen? Let's read the next portion. I'm going to have to put I think I'll just turn this way. Then you shall bring out that man or that woman who has done this evil thing to your gates. That is, the man or the woman, and you shall stone them with stones to death. On the evidence of 2 or 3 witnesses, the person shall be put to death. The person shall not be put to death by the mouth of one witness. The hand of the witnesses shall be first against the person to kill the person, and afterwards the hands of the people, and so you shall purge the evil from your midst. You might remember from your reading that this was talking about idolaters and idolatry and how they were to deal with idolatry. But the point I wanted to pull out of this wasn't that idolatry is bad, because it is, but that justice happens in the gates. That's where it happens, okay? And in every city, as it said, there was supposed to be judges and officers. The judges rendered the verdicts. The officers helped enforce the verdicts, okay? So that everybody in Israel had equal access to an abundance of justice. That would be a good thing, right? Okay? And so, where was the justice carried out? If someone like these idolaters who have been brought before the judges, where would their justice be carried out? In the gates, right? So the only place that you should see that is there. We are not a people who drags our children out into the streets and kills them. That's a whole other religion. A couple of them, I think. That's not us. We are an orderly people. He set us up to be an orderly people who went to the gates, to the judges, presented testimony. How much testimony? 2 or 3 witnesses, and then a verdict could be rendered. That didn't mean that just because there was testimony that the judges and the officers didn't investigate. Because as we'll look at in a few minutes, some people might be lying. That's bad. But yeah, he knows people. He knows how it works. So he sets up a good system for us. So where does it happen? It happens in the gate. That's where the testimony is heard. I think there's another aspect of this that's very challenging. It says that the person who gives testimony has to actually give testimony in front of the person that wronged them, sinned against them. We don't do that anymore today, do we? What do we do? Yeah, we make, what do you call it? What's the word? Passive-aggressive statements on Facebook now, right? And we hope that the person who reads it, or that the person who has offended us will A, read it because they're in our friend list for some reason, and that they will get it, that it's them that we're talking about, and they will go, oh, I was so wrong, and that they will come and apologize to us. That's not how it works. That's not at all. Essentially, we've become like this guy. This is somebody's idea of an internet troll. Okay? Looks pretty much right, out of shape, got a little Star Wars stuff and something else over there. House is messy, sleeping on the couch, pizza box, what are those, energy drinks, messy in general. That's kind of what I picture of an internet troll. And that guy likes to sit behind some name like John Wayne Green Beret 4722 so that he can make his, expert comments behind a name that isn't his name and a picture that probably isn't his picture, because who would post that? And you know where I'm going? That's what our society has really become these days. And it's wrong. And it's wrong. Now, if your brother sins, that's what I wanted to go. Now, here's the right way to do it, okay? Now, we're not going to go all the way through Matthew 18:15 this morning. I just wanted you to see the first part, because part of what makes our life difficult is that, or part of what's challenging is actually having to go to our friend or our brother and talk to them. And this is what he says in Matthew. Now, if your brother sins against you, go correct him between you and him alone. Okay, that doesn't mean a private message. Okay, that doesn't mean a text. That means you go to them face to face, because a lot's lost in texts. A lot's lost in emails. Okay, it's lost. But if you're face to face, you can see the person, you can see their expression, you can talk to them. Tell him. And if he listens to you, you've gained your brother. That's his plan. You know there's more to this. We can talk about that in Midrash if you want. But I just wanted you to see the first step. And it's one of the reasons that we don't have justice today. I know we don't have courts in all of our villages that we can go to according to the Torah. And we don't really have anything set up that you can go to here except for the elders. And nobody seems to want to participate in that system. But this is the reason we don't have justice. It's the reason we have disagreements with each other. It's the reason that we have hurt feelings and social media and passive-aggressive stuff. That's the reason, because we don't do this. If a case comes before you at your city gate which is too difficult for you to judge, concerning bloodshed or a civil suit or personal injury or any other controversial issue, you are to get up and go to the place which Adonai your God will choose and appear before the Kohanim, who are Leviim. It's important. Appear before the priest that's an actual Levite. Any other priest isn't going to work. It's not just you appear before a priest, you appear before the priests who are Levites. And judge in the office, and the judge in the office at the time, seek their opinion, and they will render a verdict for you. So it's not just high crimes like murder and idolatry that we're supposed to be able to take to this system that he has created. It's just about anything. Civil suits, personal injury, and other controversial issues. We also see that the gates are the lower court, and there's actually a higher court. You can go to the place where Yah leaves his name, which is what? The tabernacle or the temple. Anybody still with me? Have I lost you already? Okay, good. You can go to the place and you can talk to the priests who are Levites, and they can give you a verdict. That's the higher court. You are to set aside 3 cities for yourselves in your land that Yahweh your God is giving you. What is this talking about? Cities of refuge. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but he even anticipated the fact that there might be a time when someone accidentally commits a crime that results in a death. Okay? Not because they were trying. It specifically says, if you read through the Torah portion, that you didn't hate the person beforehand. Okay? That it was an accident. And if it was an accident, then you could go to one of these cities. You guys know this story. This gets a lot of coverage. We're going to kind of move on quickly from this. This is one of my favorites. Now, here, let me read it first. If a malicious witness comes forward and gives false testimony against someone, then both the men involved in the controversy are to stand before Yahweh, before the Kohanim and the judges in the office at the time. The judges are to investigate carefully. If they find that the witness is lying and has given false testimony against his brother, you are to do to him what he intended to do to his brother. In this way, you will put an end to such wickedness among you. Those who remain will hear about it, be afraid, and no longer commit such wickedness among you. Show no pity, life for life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot, and they totally deserve that and more because they've tried to do something that is one of the 10 commandments. Don't bear false witness. He said, we're going to find out. And when we do, we're going to do to you what you tried to do to the innocent person. I love that. Oh, we all know that it takes 2 or more witnesses. We're very familiar with that. So I'm sure that most of what I've covered here isn't news to anybody in here. Maybe a few who are very new to the walk, but for the most part, I think we all understand that this is what he has set up for a justice system. And all of these legal structures were intended to work together to purge the evil from the land. Do you remember reading that over and over? This is how you purge evil from your land. Okay? You don't tolerate it. You don't, anyway, this is how you do it. You obey this. The crime Yam seems most concerned with, though, at least in the top 3, is the shedding of innocent blood or murder. And that's why we call this the murder mystery. And all of this was just a quick introduction to set the foundation for what I really want to talk about, which is this. Pretty, huh? Nice little valley. Doesn't exist anywhere except in the mind of AI, but it's nice. I could see that as being pretty prime land. If you read the portion, though, I'm sure you noticed a strange little story right at the end of the reading. Okay? So hopefully we're going to fend off some midrash questions right now. Okay? There is indeed a mystery involving a dead man, a heifer. Actually, it's a dead person. Could be man or woman. Dead person, a heifer, and a bizarre ritual all set in a lovely, well-watered valley. So while that may sound like a good book for a rainy day, let's go to chapter 21. Let's pick up there. They always said, wait for the pages to stop listening. If in the land Adonai your God is giving you to possess, we pick up in verse 1, a murder victim is found lying in the countryside, and the perpetrator of the murder is not known, then your leaders and judges are to go out and measure the distance between it and the surrounding towns. And after it has been determined which town is the closest, the leaders of that town are to take a young female cow, a heifer, that has never been put to work or yoked, to use for a draft animal. The leaders of that town are to bring the heifer down to the vale or to the wadi with a stream, and if that stream, I need to read it from this side, it's too small for me. The leaders of that town are to bring the heifers down to a wadi with a stream that in it that never dries up, to a place that is neither plowed nor sown, and they are to break the cow's neck there in the wadi. Then the Kohanim, who are Leviim, are to approach, for Yahweh your God has chosen them to serve him and to pronounce blessings in the name of Yahweh. They will decide the outcome of every dispute and matter involving violence. All the leaders of the town nearest the murder victim are to wash their hands over the cow, whose neck was broken in the wadi. They are to speak up and say, "This blood was not shed by our hands, nor have we seen who did it. Yahweh, forgive your people Israel, whom you redeemed. Do not allow innocent blood to be shed amongst your people Israel, and they will be forgiven this bloodshed. Thus you will banish the shedding of innocent blood from among you by doing what Yahweh sees as right." So on the surface, we have a ritual that will cleanse the land from the shedding of innocent blood. And this, of course, is absolutely necessary. According to the law, shed blood is atoned for by the blood of the one who shed it. But what if you don't know who shed it? Okay? I was going to read that. I'm just going to keep moving. But what if you don't know who shed it? This is the ritual in Deuteronomy 21. Some are satisfied with that. Some will say, okay, I see it. I see it's important. Let's do it if it comes up. I'll file that tool away in my tool belt. But the rest of us are probably saying, why? Why do we do this? Why is the man dead? Was he a criminal? Was this a drug deal gone bad? Why the cow? Why the cow? Female and not male. Why unworked? Why does the neck get broken? Why the field? Why the creek that flows and never dries up? Why unplowed? Why the leaders? Why the washing of hands? Is this like Pilate washing his hands? Welcome to my mind. This is what I think of when I see something like this. This is the stuff that goes through my head. Now, like I said, I can understand the need for the ritual. And in some ways, this ritual is kind of like divorce. Yah intended for a man to leave his father and mother, right? Cleave to his wife, to have children and to stay together until death. That's what he intended. But people. So, divorce. Yah also intended for us to live together peacefully, to work out our issues face to face. So he even created a robust legal system to help when we couldn't. But people, so the ritual. I also know that there's something more when Yah starts doing weird stuff. So sit down and strap in. Hold on, this could get deep. The story starts out in the land that Yahweh is giving you. If in the land Yahweh your God is giving you to possess, a murder victim is found lying in the countryside, and the perpetrator of the murder is not known. So where are we? Where? So who, what, where, when? First off, who is this to? Israel, right? We're talking about Israel. Does this law apply to everyone else? No, it applies to us. Where? In the promised land, okay? Or in the kingdom when we get there. What? A murder victim. Maybe not a man, maybe a woman. It's a person who died of natural, or not a person who died of natural causes, not someone who took their own life, not someone who was mutilated by a bear, not someone who was struck by a meteorite, a murder victim. when you find someone who has been murdered, that's exactly what you're looking for. And the important bit, because this man or woman is now dead, wait, hold on. Why do I do this to myself? Glasses have to go on. Okay. Now, I'm also going to go out on a limb to say that this murder victim was innocent. I could be wrong about that. I think it was innocent because this is about the shedding of innocent blood. But what we have here is a man who is now dead, and a dead man will never bear fruit, right? Any more fruit anyway. So that means that this dead man in the field will not have any more children. He will not farm any more crops. He will not do anything for the kingdom, for Yahweh, that will, for his kingdom. He's dead. He has no ability to do that anymore. Next, we have a young female cow. The leaders of that town are to take a young female cow that has never been put to work or yoked for use as a draft animal. The leaders of that town are going to bring the heifer down to a wadi with a stream in it that never dries up, to a place that is neither plowed nor sown. And they are to break the cow's neck there in the wadi. So for those of you who aren't ranchers or who aren't farmers, a young female cow is usually referred to as a heifer, and a heifer is called that because she has never been bred, okay? Or never born a cow. Never had a calf, that's what I'm trying to say. Okay, and that's what the Hebrew word refers to. If she has never been worked, that means that she was never trained to pull a plow or to pull a cart or something like that. If she's never been done that way, then she would be breeding stock. And that's why she was set apart. They're looking for one that has never been trained to be worked as a draft animal. They need breeding stock. And while it doesn't say this specifically, I suspect that as she was taken to the land, like I showed you in the picture, that she was taken to the water and killed over the water because a stream that never dries up is obviously going to be flowing, and therefore it's living water. So, and living water is often used as a symbol in these kind of things. So, I suspect that her neck was broken, okay, rather than slit and drained, because this isn't a sacrifice. Okay, this ritual doesn't involve a sacrifice. It's more like the redemption ritual. And so in Exodus 13, we see that every firstborn from a donkey you are to redeem with a lamb. But if you choose not to redeem it with a lamb, you must break its neck. So if you'd rather have the lamb than the donkey, you break its neck. That's just for the firstborn one. Everyone afterwards you can use. So when I saw that broken neck thing, I thought, that's a similar thing. So this must be more of a redemption, even though the man is not being redeemed. Must be more like a redemption because the man's dead. But like the murder victim, this cat or this heifer is now dead. And she will never function in her purpose, which is what? To breed, to bear calves, to provide milk. She will never do those things. She won't function in her purpose anymore. And she also, like the man, will be fruitless, never bearing fruit. Finally, we have the land. So it says that the leaders of the town are to bring the heifer down to a wadi with a stream in it that never dries up, to a place that is neither plowed nor sown. And they are to break the cow's neck there in the wadi. So finally, we have the land, and the land has to be land that was never plowed or sown, which is odd because it has a stream in it. And a well-watered piece of property like that would be prime land, right? You would want to be working that land. Now, Ramban, who is a Jewish sage, for those who are new to this walk, had an interesting comment regarding this land. Can you read that? Can you see it? It says, "And the elders of that city shall bring down the heifer into a valley, which is hard, one that has never been tilled." This is Rashi's language. "And our rabbis have said that the field becomes forbidden from ever being tilled or sown. If so," the words neither tilled or sown, "are admonitions that he who sows or cultivates a rough valley in which a heifer's neck has been broken transgresses this negative commandment. The meaning of the verse is that the elders should take forth the heifer to will forever become a rough valley because it will never again be tilled or sowed. As far as Ronbank was concerned, once that ritual had been performed within a valley, that valley would never be used again. So that means that you now have a fruitless, extremely good piece of land that will never be used to raise crops, to be grazed, to farm hay. It'll only be left wild the way it is. And so, what can we say about the net effect of this murder? Yeah. Murder makes everything fruitless. That's the point, I think, of what this is showing us. It's like this little ritual, like many things that Yahweh does, is intended to show us something, to teach us something. Beyond just cleansing the land, which is cursed because of the shed blood, it's that when we kill each other, that murder reaches far beyond the victim. It touches not just him and his family. It does not just the murderer who will eventually suffer the consequences either here or in the next life, but everything that it touched, the heifer, the land, everything becomes unfruitful. Would you like to see a second witness of this? Because there is a second witness. Let's go to Genesis chapter 4. This is such a common story in our culture and in the world that everybody knows about Cain and Abel, right? Cain is another man, or not Cain, Abel is another man who was found dead in a field, right? Why was he found dead in the field? What's that? Yeah, his brother killed him. Exactly right. We all know the story. I don't need to tell a lot of it. It was the first murder. It was the first time the earth had been defiled by the shedding of innocent blood. And I know that we all know the story, so I'm going to skip forward to verse 9. Yahweh said to Cain, "Where is Havel, your brother?" And he replied, "I don't know. Am I my brother's guardian?" He said, "What have you done? The voice of your brother's blood is crying out to me from the ground. Now you are cursed from the ground, which has opened its mouth to receive your brother's blood at your hands. When you farm the ground, it will no longer yield its strength to you. You will be a fugitive wandering the earth." So what was the net cost of this murder? Well, it was very similar to the other one we discussed, right? You have another dead man, Abel, okay, who will never bear fruit on this earth, children, crops, things for the kingdom. In this life, I suspect that Abel is first in line to do that in the next life. We have another dead man. We have land now because of the curse that was put on Cain. At least for Cain, it will never bear fruit for him. So we now have worthless land all over the earth. And kind of like the heifer, you can decide what you think, there is an entire family that will never bear fruit. You guys, we've all read about Cain's line, okay? The sinful line or the wicked line of Cain. Not one of those guys was good that we know of. And as far as we know, not one of them was ever redeemed. So like the calves that were never born to the heifer, when these people died or were destroyed in the flood, all record of them is gone. The only mention of them is that they were Cain's line. And I think it was only Tubal Cain that had anything more said about him. It's almost like they didn't ever exist. A fruitless family line. So again, what I wanted to point out in the second time is that murder touched way more, and murder makes everything unfruitful. Now, I think I told you guys once about a professor I had in Bible college, Phil Stam, great guy, Baptist, more Baptist than John the Baptist. He was so Baptist. And he was a golfer. Great golfer. I was embarrassed playing with him. But Professor Stam used to say that if you've been preaching or teaching and you haven't talked about Jesus, then you ain't done yet. I could kind of see him looking a little bit like that. So while we're talking about murder, let's see what our Master Yeshua has to say about it. Can we do that? Go to Matthew 5. You have heard, let's see, is everybody there? You have heard that it was said to the people of old, do not commit murder, and whoever commits murder will be subject to judgment. But I say to you that everyone who is angry at his brother will be subject to judgment. And whoever says to his brother, stupid fool, will be subject to the council. And whoever says, obstinate fool, will be subject to fiery hell. There's 3 words in here I really want to cover from this. The first one is anger. The next one is stupid fool, or your version may say raka. That's actually the Greek word. We'll touch on that. And the third one is obstinate fool, because we ought to know what's going on in this that Yeshua is trying to teach us. So here's the first word. It's anger, or gizo, to be angry. And this Greek word is used 9 times in the New Testament. So we have 9 different places where we can see how it's used and some context and kind of get an idea of how the word works. Most of them refer to Yahweh's righteous anger. And most of those mentions are in either stories or parables. But I don't think Yeshua is talking about Yahweh's righteous anger here, because he's talking about a man's anger. Okay? He's not talking about Yahweh's righteous anger. You have heard that it was said to the people of old, do not commit. Oh, wait, I got that. Notice that both the person who committed murder, who would be subject to judgment, has the same, is in the same peril as the person who is angry at his brother. Both of them will be subject to judgment. Did you see that when we read it? Okay. Also notice who he's angry at. Who is it? His brother, right? It's not his neighbor. The world is full of our neighbors, right? And we're supposed to love our neighbors. But this is his brother that he's angry at. And that's a closer relationship. That's family. That's Israel. That's like all of us in this room. Okay, so this man is angry. He's in danger of the judgment. So being angry at things like, I don't know, Congress, by things like rude drivers on Paul Huff, by whoever keeps sending me that text message about wanting to recruit me for a job. Do you guys getting that one too? Uh-huh. Being angry at them is one thing, but that's not what he's talking about here. Okay? He's talking about being angry at our brother. Now, is being angry a sin? No. Paul told the Ephesians this, be angry and do not sin. Do not let the sun set on your anger, nor give place to the devil. So I suspect that the problem that a lot of us have is we get angry and then we hold on to it past the setting of the sun. And once that sun is set, who gets access? The enemy. And the enemy now has freedom to do some things, right? So the anger that Yeshua is talking about is the foundation. And the next 2 things we're going to look at is what's built on that foundation. Does that make sense? It's what we are going to do in our anger. So here's the second word that I want to talk about, raka, which is probably what most of your translations say, right? Okay, raka. It's only used once in the New Testament, and it's used right here. It means fool or empty-headed, as you can see there. Okay, but what we learn about this word is that this is an insult. You're insulting someone because of their lack of intelligence, right? So, what you're saying is that when you're insulting a foolish person, you're saying that person is either unlearned, uneducated, or untrained, right? They're a fool. They don't know what they're doing. They don't know what they're talking about. That's what you're saying. if you were to say that they were empty-headed, then you would say they know nothing. They are unexperienced. And that thus, this person is now worthless. Now, remember that this is being built on or said in anger. So how often when we say something in anger are we really happy about what we said later? Maybe I might have misjudged you in my anger. Maybe I might have said something that wasn't true because I was angry. Also remember the context of this paragraph. The context of this paragraph is murder. Okay? It's murder. So let me restate this verse with this understanding. You have heard that it was said to the people of old, do not commit murder, and whoever commits murder will be subject to judgment. But I say to you that everyone who calls his brother stupid fool has murdered him and will be subject to the courts. Now, is that fair? Do you think that might be what Yeshua was teaching when he said, if you say this, this is what you mean? Okay, I'm not seeing a lot of, yeah. I'm seeing some, I don't know. Well, let's keep going. Maybe I can convince you. If indeed murder makes everything unfruitful, like the heifer in the field and the victim, how does insulting people in your anger make them unfruitful? How would it be the same as if you had murdered them? Okay. What's that? You're breaking them? What were you saying? Character assassination, love that. Okay. Well, like I said, if I character assassinate them, if I break them, if I hurt them, if I discourage them, then it might be like killing them because at that point they're no longer going to be bearing fruit, right? So it's the same basic concept. I am rendering them fruitless by my angry insults. So I've essentially murdered them. Now, this is the month of Elul, right? And this is the month that we need to be thinking about what we're doing because we're preparing to see who? The king, right? And we're looking for opportunities to spend time with him in the field because the king during this month is in the field and therefore more accessible to us. So one of the things I was hoping that we would get from this and hoping that we would think about is how are my angry words affecting people? Because some of us have angry words, right? And this is pretty serious business because we are very free, me included. When I say we, I'm talking about me, in the way that we use insults these days. I'm just as guilty as everyone else. We are especially free about it on the internet because we're hiding behind Green Beret 5728 at AOL.com or whatever your email address. That's not my email, by the way. That's not my email. You can email that as much as you want there. I don't really care. Send them those texts about the job opportunities. I have a feeling that those trolls need a job. So, whoever that is. But this is pretty serious. We are very free with insults, and we're even free within the body. One of the things we do best as Hebrew roots, Messianic, whatever we are, is tear the other Messianic Hebrew root people apart because they don't follow the right calendar, or they don't use the right name, or they don't, whatever. We know that. Bill talks about that all the time, and it continues. This is the last word. Moros, foolish. Sounds a lot like the second word, except that the Greek word here is often connected to the Hebrew word found in Deuteronomy 21:18 about the stubborn, rebellious son. Do you guys remember that story? Good, because we're going to go there. Deuteronomy 21:18 through 20. If a man has a stubborn and rebellious son who does not listen to the voice of his father and to the voice of his mother, and they discipline him and he does not obey them, then his father and his mother shall take hold of him, and they shall bring him out to the elders of his city and to the gate of his town. And they shall say to the elders of his city, our son is stubborn and rebellious. He does not obey us, and he is a glutton and a drunkard. Now, this is a very misunderstood passage, okay? For the record, we don't stone our children in the streets for smarting off, okay? So every one of you who's a child right now, Don't worry. This isn't going to happen to you, okay? We would have to take you to the judge first, and then we could stone you. No, we don't do that. We're not set up for that in exile, are we? No, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. But the lesson still remains, okay? This person in this story was not a 5-year-old. This person was an adult. Look at it. These parents raised him in a Torah-observant home. Good, diligent parents who clearly obey the Torah because they took him to the gates like they were supposed to. They did the things that Yahweh told them to do. They tried to train him, but he would not obey them. And he grew up. He's still living in their home. He's a glutton now and a drunkard. He won't work, and they're sick of it. This guy again. Okay? That's more of what we're looking at, not the little one next to you. So the stubborn and rebellious son is the obstinate fool. It's that word. That's the connection that I want you to make here. All right? So who is the ultimate stubborn fool? Stubborn rebel, I should say. Who is the ultimate stubborn rebel? Adversary. Thank you. Excellent answer. Gold star for Tyler, please. Okay. Satan, the adversary, the enemy, is the ultimate stubborn rebel. Now, if in our anger we accuse someone of being a stubborn rebel, see where I'm going yet? And if we stoop to accusing the brethren in public, then who are we being like? The adversary. Now, I thought I heard someone say Democrat, and you're not wrong. Okay? But that's not the answer I'm looking for right now. Okay? No, the enemy. And here's the receipt. Revelation 12:10. And I heard a loud voice in heaven saying, now the salvation and the power and the kingdom of our God and the authority of his Christ have come, because the accuser of our brothers has been thrown down, the one who accuses them before our God day and night. Okay? Who's the accuser that was thrown down? The enemy, of course. What does he do? Accuse them day and night. And guys, why does my thing keep dying? There it is. And who accuses them before our God day and night. Whoops, let me go back one. So what Yeshua says about murder is that it's not limited to taking someone's life. It is limited. It definitely includes the way we talk about people, because we can murder someone with our words just as easily as we can murder someone. Well, no, it's actually much easier and a lot less planning. But we can do, they're both equivalent, is what he's trying to say. Just shoot me now. So, that would be murder. But it wouldn't be a mystery. And most people would say, yeah, that was good. Anyway, so I want to wrap this thing up. Not the basket, the teaching, or whatever this is. So, almost a year ago, we heard a word at Sukkot. Celso, can you get up and say it again real quick? No? All right. We heard a word at Sukkot. We heard that we were his Jacob's tent, right? And that was cool. I don't know about you guys, but that stuck right there. My Jacob's tent, not mine, his, but that stuck in my heart. You will grow. That was the word. You will extend your branches. Remember that part? You will drive in the stakes. We weren't going to continue to just bop from place. We've been an almost itinerary congregation, it seems like. We've been here, we've been there. We're over at OCI sometimes. We've been in the park. You know, it's like we don't have a spot. But he said, no, that's not, we're going to have a spot. We're going to have a place. And it's big. How many of you guys have been there? Yeah, most of you, right? It's big. It's great. Okay? And they were painting it up today and putting in all the little columns for all these little things last week. Yep. Did I say today? Yesterday. We don't work on Shabbat. That's a rule. We don't paint on Shabbat. John, you're off for the day. Okay. But it's awesome. He also said, be not afraid. And I love that. And since then, we have stepped out and bought a building. Not Bill. He may be heading up the effort. We committed to buying a building. Everybody agree with that? Okay. Anybody disagree? No hands. We're good. Okay. Yeah, chickens. All right. So we stepped out and we committed to buying a building because we know he's doing something big, right? Celso, is that the word? Was that close? Is that the word? Okay. We know he's doing something big. And we've had many words since then to keep encouraging us, to move forward. Don't be afraid. Do you not know was the most recent one that you will be entering into a place of rest? I would like to that. I'm sure you would too. And we also have heard clearly that he wants us to bear, that in this new place where he's taking us, we will bear abundant fruit. Unless we murder each other. Okay? That's the whole point of what we're saying. Murder makes everything unfruitful, and that's not the direction he's pointing us in. He's pointing us in fruitfulness, not killing each other, not running each other over with our mouths. So please remember that murder makes everything unfruitful, and it always touches more than just the victim. So what do? Well, we go back to the beginning of the Torah portion. You are to appoint judges and officers at all your gates in the city. Adonai, your God, is giving you. Now, I'll finish up with this story. Last night, we were making dinner. Okay, as Erev was coming. So Denise and I were throwing some dinner together. She decided she wanted to listen to something on her phone while we were chopping stuff and preparing the meal. So she's got her phone out, and we start listening to one thing, and she goes, not that one. And so she's flipping through some other stuff, and she goes, oh, there's my guy. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure I'm your guy. And she goes, no, it's my little rabbi guy. And I was like, all right, you can have a little rabbi guy. What are we listening to? And it was Rabbi Chaim Rickman. How many of you guys listened to him? Chaim Rickman, okay? Great episode this week, by the way. He's talking about the Torah portion, and I had been thinking about the Torah portion for the last few days. So I was like, oh, good, let's hear what the rabbi has to say about the Torah portion. And so he goes to this verse, and this is all he talked about, appointing judges and officers at your gates. Now, most of us understand that the gates can also refer to the gates within us, right? The eye gate, the ear gate, okay? And so he's talking about the eye gate and the ear gate and appointing judges and appointing officers, and I'm thinking, be careful, little eyes, what you see. Don't start singing it. That's not a worship song. Well, it's kind of a worship song. I don't know. Anyway, so I'm thinking about that, and he's talking about putting these gates, and he's the one that said the judge makes a decision about what happens at the gate, and then the officer executes the decision. And I thought that was brilliant. That was brilliant. I love it. Now, he's talking about a nose gate, and I don't remember that being in the song, but he was talking about the nose gate, but right after that, he talked about the mouth gate. And of course, that immediately connected with what I've been thinking about, with all this murdering with our words and stuff. So his suggestion was to put an officer and a judge at the gate of your own mouth. Okay? Not because you're worried about what's coming in, which some of us are also doing because we're fasting during the lull. I'm not going to ask for hands because I don't want to ruin your fast. Okay? But to guard what comes out, right? And I love that. A judge to make the decision. We have to make a decision about what's going to come out of our mouths if we want to not murder our brethren, thus rendering us fruitless. And we're going to need some self-control, which is the officer, to help us. Now, I know I have a bad habit. You know, I score very high on the sarcasm, snark, and, idle words talk. And I score very low on the filter test. All right? And maybe some of you were in the same class I was. Yep. See a few hands. That's good. I need a judge. And I need a guard at the gate because I want to stop doing this. This is for me, and you guys have all been just attending my private therapy session with the Father. But it might also be for some of you, right? Amen? So, put a guard. There's a guard for you. Guard at the gate. Close it. Close it. Now, I was thinking about worship this morning while I was worshiping. Fantastic worship, by the way. Again, thank you very much. Faithful worship team. And I always kind of look for the song that shows that I'm on the same wavelength that they're on. And I didn't see any songs about not running your brother down over or not killing people, or I didn't hear any worship songs about that, strangely enough, this week. But what I did hear was about how much he loves us. And I need more of that. Okay, which is fun because that's what Bill says all the time, right? He says, the hardest commandment is to love your neighbor, and you guys are all my neighbors, in addition to being my brothers and sisters. So I want to do that. I want to put a guard up. I hope you will do that. And since it's a lull, and since we're fasting, and since we're praying, and since the king's in the field, and since he's accessible, may I encourage, beg, plead, exhort, command, I don't have any ability to command you, to consider that this month, for the next 33 days, since we're 7 days into a lull already. Amen?